This is the story of the wrong moustache in the Battle of Hastings. I'm talking about the new BBC drama King and Conqueror, the 1066 story. It's been accused by numerous commentators of playing fast and loose with the historical narrative of the Norman conquest. And that, in my mind, is a reasonable criticism. But on my assessment of the various critiques of the series, I would say that the deepest opprobrium has been reserved for what I think can be fairly described as Moustachegate. So the problem is that Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, as Duke William of Normandy, sports a brimming tache, memorably described by Lucy Mangan in The Guardian as a 1970s dad tache, while the upper lip of James Norton's Harold Godwinson is unequivocally hairless. And that, as many experts have pointed out, is directly at odds with the Bayeux Tapestry, the famous 11th century embroidery, which provides the earliest visual representation of the 1066 story, quite clearly shows a moustachioed Harold and a clean-shaven William. So that's the wrong way round. Harold's facial hair in the tapestry is in line with that of his Anglo-Saxon compatriots. They tend to, but don't always, boast moustaches, and some of those taches are thin and straggly, while others are impressive handlebar affairs. The Normans, on the other hand, lack upper lip action. The embroiderers were clearly following a style guide to try to offer a visual prompt to the viewer about which side the respective figures were on. And it wasn't just moustaches that helped viewers to know who was on which team. The haircuts were also a clue. The Normans often had curious shaved necks, which in the words of the great tapestry scholar, Professor Gail Owen Crocker, were sometimes accompanied by a menacing lock of hair at the forehead, or a reverse mullet, as Dr. Thomas Williams has called it. The English generally had a decidedly less scary bowl-cut bob sort of look going on. And this was significant because one of the things with the Bayeux Tapestry is it doesn't give you very much information in the captions to describe what's going on. So this visual prompt is really helpful. Now, aside from Moustachegate, for my money, to maintain tapestry accuracy, James Norton's haircut isn't quite dorky enough as Harold, and Coster-Waldau's as William isn't really shavenly intimidating as it ought to be. Maybe Luther Ford's Tostig Godwinson gets closest to a tapestry look with his bowl cut, though important to note that Tostig himself does not specifically appear in the embroidery, so I'm just talking about Anglo-Saxon generality. Now, I haven't seen any explanation in the crew interviews for this obvious diversion from the historical facial hair facts. However, I do note that Norton had originally hoped to play William, but his plan was scuppered by a contractual obligation. He could only appear in King and Conqueror if his character died. So with that legal stipulation, it basically ruled out the Norman Duke, who famously doesn't die in the Battle of Hastings, and left him little choice but to take on the ill-fated Harold instead. So maybe they just forgot who was supposed to grow the tache after that. I don't know.